Alright, Michael here to give you an update on the latest on what's going on out there in the weather community so far. Happy Thursday, everyone. Let's get started. We have heat going on across the United States as well as flooding. Heat building back up in the western parts of the United States, and there's just a lot going on. We have some Saharan dust moving in, and I'm here to explain see what's going on out there in the weather community with you. Also make sure to subscribe for more weather updates like this, and let's get started. So as you can see there on your screen, heat advisories are in effect for the coast of Georgia, the Carolinas, some inland into Georgia, and well inland to Florida. Everybody in the peninsula of Florida under those heat advisories right now. Heat advisories building up in the Oklahoma region, and then you have some extreme heat watches in effect as that heat is getting ready to build back up in that west. Remember, I've talked about like waves that were happening here where sort of the heat is moving in this direction. Remember, all of us was under those heat alerts, and it's moving in a direction like that. But now after it moves, it's like it's starting all over again. Will that heat be able to continue and do the same sort of path again? That's the path I'm noticing here. We have some flood watches in effect for Kentucky, the whole entire state of Kentucky, areas of the Midwest. We are seeing some of those flood watches in effect for the central Tennessee area as well. So as you can see here on your screen, extreme heat warnings are in effect specifically for those southeastern coastal sections. So anywhere from Wilmington to Myrtle Beach to Savannah, you are under extreme heat warnings. Inland, you're having the heat advisory. So Florida, you're going to be packing a punch here, and we're going to get into that National Weather Service heat risk like we do on these videos, just to explain to you the temperatures that are happening. And here is a look at our heat risk. As you can see on your map, millions of people are under those extreme heat. That purple is the extreme heat. As we get into here, as you can see in Florida, we start disappearing that heat that's going on there. But then we get into Sunday, and that heat is moving out. Well, let's look back up here in the northern part of the country. Look at that heat moving east and moving southeast as we get into those areas. It looks like by Wednesday it tries to calm down. What could we have in the future there? Could it be entering more towards the Midwest and the South once again? We'll watch for it. But either way, everyone's going to be getting hot. Look at California, Los Angeles, California. They're going to be in the heat. In all of these areas, really everybody is going to get a taste of heat this summer so far. So make sure that you're taking the precautions, heat exhaustion, heat stroke, things of that nature like that. If you get into Boston and look in areas of Chicago like that, you're still going to be having the moderate heat, whether you're not in the reds or the purples. Like I said, if you're not in the purple, you're in the red. If you're not in the red, you're in the orange. Yellow, you're lucky to be in the yellow right now, as it is going to be minor heat, but it's still going to be interesting heat. So make sure that you are taking those safety precautions. Like I said, make sure that you're staying hydrated and more. And we're going to look in, tap in, and see what the Storm Prediction Center is giving us right. Storm Prediction Center here's a look at what's going on there. The normal areas that are getting it, the central part of the country, as you can see there, as we get into Garden City, Pueblo, and things like that of that nature. If you're east of Pueblo, you're going to be in the slight risk. This area constantly getting that severe weather. St. Louis, you're in this slight risk, as well as Baltimore, Washington, and Richmond. Showers and thunderstorms widespread across the country. Today for our tornado outlook, it's going to be mainly centered around St. Louis. We're going to be seeing if we in that area. Here's a look at your dash lines here for your wind threat. Garden City, you're in those dash lines. But your 15% is going to be mainly St. Louis and Baltimore, as well as those areas of McCook and things like that. It's just a higher rate there. As we get into our hail threat, if you're in those areas in the central part of the country, that's what the hail threat's going to be, mainly in the northern central parts of the country. That dash line being more severe than what it already is. Now tomorrow for our outlook, we're only seeing marginal conditions, which is very good compared to our severe weather days, mainly in the central part and the southern parts of the country. Marginal risk. Now as far as our tornado risk, we have less than 2% in all areas, which is a good thing to hear. As our wind threat, going to be mainly across those same areas that have that marginal risk as well as that hail threat. So tomorrow is going to be on the quieter side as we get into our Saturday. As we get into our Saturday, we're going to have a marginal risk there. We're a little far out to see the actual guidelines of what they're giving here, but probabilistic for severe thunderstorms, very low chance. So our severe weather chances are definitely quieting down. That's something that we want to see here. That way we don't have damaging winds and wind gusts and things of that nature. So it's something to think about. This is going to be, so I'm going to move back to the day one. So day one, this is going to be your commute, your outlook today, what's going to be happening on your day today. Slight risk across the central part of the country, moving in towards that I-40 corridor, up towards that area as you move eastward into Washington and Baltimore. These are going to be the areas to watch out. Marginal surrounding, also a little bit of marginal risk down there in Phoenix, Arizona. That's something we want to watch out for. That's just southeast of Phoenix, Arizona, rather. And we're going to have the greens, and that's something we want to watch out for. All right, here's a look at the National Hurricane Center. And as I explained this before, dust going to be moving across areas of the United States. And as we get in towards the southeastern sections, that dust is going to move towards into the Gulf area. And as you get into Georgia area, so I'm going to really draw a line here, which is possible, not guaranteed, so I'm going to draw that line there. And that dust is going to not really pass that line. Like, some dust may go in that direction generally, but if you're in that area, I'm going to use a different color here. Let's use purple, since it's a different color from the rest. And if you see purple here, that's going to be generally where that dust is going to move at. So we're going to have that dust. I'm drawing these arrows here just to give you an example. In this circle, just imagine this being a storm. So that dust is going to try to, and I could be wrong on this, but I just want to give you a visual of what's happening. Let's use a square rather. Let's make that square yellow. So that, let's just say that yellow is our tropical development there in that area. And that went away. Okay, let's say our square is here, and we have our dust moving like this. We've got to change the square now. Let's just change the color. I'm sorry, guys, if this is taking a hold. I'm just trying to get used to this. As we move here to this purple area, and let's say that that's the dust. The dust is moving like this. So the dust is really, if I'm not mistaken, the storms. That yellow that you see there, and I'm going to draw this in yellow for you, that storm probably would either move up, but realistically, if this storm was moving into here, that dust would significantly die out that storm. So if a storm were to develop, which there's dust all over the place over here at this rate, so there's probably not even a storm that would even come from that direction, and if it did, it would weaken in that situation. But if it came from the Gulf area, that's still something to watch, actually, because you have a whole bunch of warm waters that are happening in the Gulf, and I'm going to draw that out for you. That's the issue here with the El Nino. So everybody's like El Nino, but at the same time, we have those warm waters that are developing there. Do we get a storm that develops here? Could easily move into those areas right there along the Gulf. So we have the dust, even when after the dust is over, we have those warm waters that seem to be warm, and they're staying consistently warm. So although we're having an El Nino out there in the Eastern Pacific and things like that of that nature, mid-Pacific, the whole Pacific, really, the fact that we're having an El Nino out there and it's becoming a larger and larger El Nino, we still have to watch out here for these significantly warm waters here in the Gulf. Probably some, if I'm not mistaken, probably warm waters really surrounding that area too. So any of these warm watered areas could generally have a storm. So just imagine this being the storm right here. If it's warm water, no dust, in fact, if there's no dust, even if we have that wind shear, we know we have the situation of wind shear. Wind shear is going to weaken these storms, but even if that storm were able to somehow bypass, as it enters that warm water section, really anything is a possibility when we get to these storms. So if it enters that warm water section, specifically, I think that's what happened with Arthur. I could be, but we did have remnants from another storm that helped create that storm, so it was able to be right here. But those warm waters strengthening that storm, just imagine if Arthur probably went out here, it'd probably be a Cat 1 we're talking about here, to be honest. But that's going to be my take on that, so just giving you a little information on that. So the warm waters, so although we have an El Nino, although we have the wind shear, we have all of these things that could downgrade these storm systems, we have warm waters in the Gulf along the coastal areas, and that's something that we have to watch out for just in case we have a storm. But my name is Michael. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you out there in the weather community. Have a blessed Thursday, and I'm Michael. Stay safe, stay blessed, have a wonderful day.